It seems Saudi Arabia is hedging its bets, and so is the United States. Neither country wants a break in relations, but leaders in both capitals feel disrespected. It's not an easy or stable balance, especially for Israel, which wants better relations with Riyadh but depends absolutely on the reliability of US power in the region. Recently, it was the production cut heard around the world that sent a ripple across the oil industry, after Saudi Arabia earlier this week led a group of oil-producing nations to agree to a coordinated cut in output totaling more than 1 million barrels a day. Analysts scrambled to say whether it was a slap at the Biden administration, cozying up to China, or simply the Gulf nation protecting its own interests. The move caught most observers off guard and prompted a quick dismissal from President Joe Biden on Monday. This is what Joe Biden had to say about the oil cuts.
Mr. President, on OPEC, do you have any reaction to the oil production cuts, sir? OPEC!
On OPEC!
Still, the news sent Brent crude, the international benchmark, to $85 a barrel, up from the $75 range it had been trading at only 10 days earlier. A poke in the eye. Biden and Saudi's relationship never began on the positive side. As a candidate for president in 2020, Biden had vowed to hold the kingdom accountable for the death of journalist Jamal Khashoggi, who U.S. intelligence services believe was brutally murdered with the approval of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Yet in the summer of 2022, with inflation raging and gasoline prices above $5 a gallon, Biden traveled to Jeddah and famously fist-bumped the Saudi leader even as the president denied he was begging the Saudis to produce more oil. 3 months later, the Saudis cut production. The recent decision of the Biden administration to forego refilling the strategic petroleum reserve as oil prices fell may also have played into the Saudi calculation. As the price of oil trended below the $80 a barrel mark, Saudi revenues took a beating and, as the country is one of the largest, low-cost producers of oil, it exerts enormous control on the global price of the liquid gold. The recent banking crisis in the U.S. and enhanced fears of a recession that could slow global growth no doubt added to concerns in Jeddah. That was clearly a strategic mistake by the Biden administration, as the geopolitical situation with oil is getting interesting. The China syndrome. But while it fits an easy narrative of the Saudis sending Biden a middle-finger salute, the reasoning behind the move may have explanations that have as much to do with Saudi Arabia's changing geopolitical standing and its own domestic needs. Saudi Arabia, along with many other countries that saw the world in terms of a struggle between global superpowers America and the Soviet Union during the Cold War era, is now seeking friendships outside of a duopoly based on military might. This latest round of OPEC 2.0 production cuts is an aggressive preemptive response to price weakness potentially arising on the supply side, BCA Research wrote on Tuesday, after the announcement. It is, we believe, meant to counter the aggressive monetary policy moves by systemically important central banks, led by the Fed, and a lack of follow-through on refilling the U.S. SPR, which the Biden administration appears to be walking back. The latest action by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia dramatically highlights the evolution of KSA's economic political policy shift, which, first and foremost, now prioritizes Saudi interests. This will further widen the rift between KSA and the U.S. Saudi Arabia is embarked on a massive modernization and is increasingly reliant on money and technical support from China. That has only intensified in the wake of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and recent moves by China to act as a peacemaker between those two nations. Case in point, on Thursday, the foreign ministers of Saudi Arabia and Iran met in Beijing, where they began setting plans for reopening embassies and consulates in each other's country for the first time since 2016. The two countries restored diplomatic relations last month, in a deal brought about with China's help. The meeting represents a significant victory for China's foreign policy. However, it does not yet signal a clear path in terms of pricing pressure on oil, back to $100. Some oil experts are predicting oil could rise to $100 a barrel with the Saudi-led cutbacks due to take effect in May, just ahead of the peak gasoline demand amid the summer driving season in the U.S. But recent economic data, from rising unemployment claims, a manufacturing sector that is contracting and falling bond yields, has many predicting a recession in the U.S. this year. That would bring demand for energy down, or at least keep it rising as much as might be expected with a growing economy. On Thursday, the government revised its weekly unemployment claims data showing that the labor market may have begun softening earlier than originally expected. Many economists have been warning the Federal Reserve's extraordinary tightening of monetary policy through rapid increases in interest rates would eventually tip the economy into a recession. Weekly jobless claims have been rising for 8 weeks and now stand at the highest level since the second week of January. In the US, there has also been declines in job openings that, along with weakness in hiring picked up by private job firms such as ZipRecruiter and others, signaling an end to the hiring boom. Meanwhile, layoffs continue to rise and the manufacturing report shows that the employment component is well into contractionary territory, falling from 49.1 to 46.9 in March. Beyond the job market, there is also a decline in consumer spending for 3 out of the last 4 months, and the recent banking crisis as reasons for hiring to be slowing down. All told, the softening in the labor market, often seen as one of the last sectors of the economy to roll over before a recession, could dampen demand for oil as the year rolls on. That could also have been on the radar of the Saudis as they move to surprise and buttress markets this week. U.S. official visits Saudi. The Biden administration's CIA Director William J. Burns visited the kingdom this week. He discussed shared interests with top Saudi officials and reinforced our commitment to intelligence cooperation, especially in areas such as counterterrorism. It is tempting to see the oil production move by MBS, as the Saudi Crown Prince is known, as a pre-arrangement endorsement of former President Donald Trump. Certainly, he prefers Republicans, but he has been hedging his bets in the GOP, too. In February, MBS hosted Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell and a group of top GOP senators. This week, the Saudis staged a lavish event in Miami hosted by Republican Mayor Francis Suarez, an ally of Governor Ron DeSantis, a Trump rival. MBS is still loyal, in his way, to the former president who boasted to Bob Woodward about saved him after the 2018 murder of Post-contributing columnist Jamal Khashoggi. MBS's Sovereign Wealth Fund has financed the LIV Golf Tour that has showcased Trump's resorts and has put more than $2 billion in an investment firm run by Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law and former senior advisor. But I'm guessing that for MBS, Chinese President Xi Jinping is the new Trump, the big guy who indulges the Saudi leader's ambitions as a regional powerhouse. When she visited Saudi Arabia in December, MBS organized a Gulf summit at which other countries joined in pledging cooperation on economic, energy and security issues. MBS has told Saudi confidants that the United States remains the kingdom's partner, but not its only partner. I am told that the Crown Prince explained to these insiders that while his predecessors would immediately grant U.S. requests, I broke that because I want things in return. MBS is still buying Boeing airplanes, for example, but he just received a reaffirmation of U.S. protection in Burns's visit and a joint military exercise. The Biden administration has taken the latest Saudi rebuff calmly, in contrast to its anger after the kingdom sharply cut production in October. Officials note that crude oil prices were at 15-month lows, below $80 a barrel for much of March, and that analysts were forecasting a further slide below $70. Facing that kind of price decline, the Saudis often cut production. Biden administration officials are betting that prices will settle in the mid-80s, and that the overall economic effect will be limited. But if the market tightens and prices rise above $100 a barrel, it's not clear what the administration could do about it. Biden is not a president for whom this Saudi leader is likely to do any favors. That's why we highly admire China's 14th five-year plan for prioritizing energy security and stability, acknowledging its crucial role in economic development. At the same time as this relationship was moving up several gears, so was the relationship between Saudi Arabia and Russia. By the end of the 2014 to 2016 oil price war, the U.S. shale oil sector had reorganized itself into an oil-producing machine that could survive on prices as low as $35 per barrel, PB, of Brent if necessary. Saudi Arabia's budget break-even price then was over $84 PB, and there was no way it could compete with the U.S. Saudi Arabia desperately needed to push oil prices back up to repair its budget, but was unable to do so because its disastrous second oil price war, the first being the 1973 oil crisis. had critically undermined its credibility with other OPEC members and with the global